Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of our Level 1 video, The Stock Market. When talking about bull and bear markets, this refers to whether or not market prices are rising or falling. A bear market means prices are falling and have been falling for a while, typically by about 20% from where they started, and are expected to continue to drop for the next several months. A bull market, on the other hand, indicates prices are rising, and again, have been consistently rising for several months. Prices will fluctuate up and down regularly, so to be considered a real shift into a bull or a bear market, you have to look at how long the prices have been rising or falling, and by how much. Now, beginning in March of 2009 and ending in January of 2022, the U.S. enjoyed a bull market, with prices trending up for almost 13 years straight. As you can see in the graph, prices can drop in a bull market, but when we look at the trends, even with the dips, it's really trending up pretty consistently. Now, these little dips within the bull market are often what we refer to as market corrections. Where a bull or bear market refers to a long-term trend, a correction is much more short-term. It's called a correction because the idea is that the drop was influenced by something rather isolated and doesn't reflect the actual value of the stocks. For example, in 2001, the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center resulted in an 11.6% drop in the S&P 500. But a month later, it had recovered or corrected because prices returned to pre-attack levels, where they would have been if the attack hadn't happened. As you can see by this graph, corrections happen quite often. In fact, on average, there's a market correction about once every 3 years, even within a bull market. To put it another way, even when prices drop for a short period of time, during a bull market, prices on average keep going up. Why is this important to you? Because people often panic when they see the prices going down. They fear that if prices keep going down and stay down, they'll lose all their money. Because of that fear, they tend to sell their stocks as the prices are falling, believing that losing a little here is better than losing everything down here. But once you understand how often these corrections happen, it's easier to ride them out and not panic. Remember, you only lose money when you sell. History shows us that the market has bounced back and overall has been incredibly stable. If a person doesn't panic here because he understands how these things tend to cycle through, he probably feels more comfortable waiting it out, hopefully selling up here and possibly making a ton of money. Now, in our last video, we mentioned putting $5,000 away, doing literally nothing, and then having $30,000 after 20 years. If you haven't seen that video and don't know what I'm talking about, feel free to check it out. This really stable upward trend is why you might be able to turn $5,000 into $30,000 in 20 years. Because despite the price drops associated with the corrections, or even a full-on bear market where prices stay low for a long time, the S&P has still averaged 11% growth over the last 3/4 of a century. That kind of stability is something the law of averages says you can invest in that will make you money in the long term. Now, as I mentioned, the U.S. market had demonstrated stable growth since 2009, but with the global pandemic in 2020, you do start to see a more consistent downward trend in the Dow Jones and the S&P 500. A shift into a bear market with prices consistently low or falling doesn't happen all that often, but in January of 2022, the U.S. officially entered a bear market. Now, no one knows how long the current bear market will last, but looking at the entire history of the S&P shows us the odds are in our favor that it will shift again. It's just a matter of when. Making money and creating wealth requires a bit of knowledge, a fair amount of patience, and a whole lot of ability to stay the course when everyone else is panicking. If you're someone who doesn't know about the natural market corrections or the history of how the stock market has always shifted out of the bear markets to be profitable again, you too might panic when the price is going down and decide to cut your losses before you lose everything. But fear is never a good reason to buy or sell. A successful investor will remove emotions from these decisions, and we've created an entire video for you that talks about this. Although there are no guarantees, the educated investor knows there's a good chance the prices will bounce back up eventually. When you understand that these corrections and trends and shifts happen, then you don't have to panic when everyone else does. In many cases, if you made good stock choices to begin with, you can just sit back and wait for things to correct or for the bear market to turn around and still come out way ahead of the game come time for retirement. For more information on what stocks might make good investment choices, check out the link to our website in the description below. Thank you for watching, and let's do this together.